Yeah.
And whenever you're ready.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, councillors, officers, members of the press. Welcome to the planning meeting on this day, the Tuesday the 13th of July. Thank you for attending this evening. I've normally got a little announcement to make about fire safety. I don't have it here on the desk, so I'm just going to try and do it from memory. In the case of the fire alarm sounding, we have two exits, one over here and one over here. And if you could try and assemble in Marketplace. Okay, have I done that correctly?
Yes.
Great.
I trust you.
Okay. All right, let's start with item number 1, apologies for absence, please. Do we have any?
Not that I'm sorry. No, I don't believe I've received any unless the planning officer. Planning officer Jodie Rhymes is joining us via Zoom this evening.
Councillor Gavashak need to substitute for it. So,
okay, we have one
I'm
substitution
presuming
for Councillor Gavashak in Councillor Reisman, yes. Okay, right, I'm sorry to hear that. Please send him my good wishes. Okay, so as the town clerk has advised, we do have a hybrid meeting this evening. So when they join us, are you going to have them join now?
They have already joined the meeting, but they've got their cameras off.
They've got their cameras off at the moment. Okay, so when they do join us,
yes, they can. Yes.
Just to let you know that we'd appreciate you actually keeping your mics off until you're called. That will help with any sort of feedback issues that we may have. Many thanks. Okay, let's move on to item number 2, declarations of interest. Councillors, do you have any declarations to make? No, I see none. So let's go to item number 3, which is minutes. To approve the minutes of the last planning committee, which was held on the 22nd of June. Proposed. Thank you. Seconded. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. That's carried. Item number 4 is public participation. So we have 20 minutes to have any members in the public gallery who would like to speak. You each have 2 to 3 minutes, and if you are speaking about the same application, all that we ask is that you try not to repeat the same points as the person who spoke before you. Okay, so who would like to go first? Yes, hello. Please do stand and tell us your name.
Thank you, 31 Church Street. I'd like to talk about the submission that I hope you received about the Premier planning application. Thank you for letting me speak about this tonight. I'm here to ask that any town council... You
are welcome to take your mask off, by the way.
Yes.
Really?
I'm here to ask that any town council ask for a minimum of 2 electric vehicle car cars to be provided as a condition of the Premier planning development proceeding. The application doesn't comply with existing planning policies and works against the Town Council's transport strategy and evolving Henley Environmental Action Plan because, 1, it would worsen the town's pollution and congestion problem because of the additional journeys generated by guests travelling to and from the hotel in the car. 2, there will be a loss of a minimum of 50 parking places, which will make it more difficult to encourage park and walk to the town centre from the station parking. Daytime parking by guests at the hotel will also add to this problem. The good news is that the provision of car cars will at least mitigate the pollution problem by providing electric vehicles for the use of visitors and residents. The transport assessment provided with the application talks about the locality of the site, meaning that a significant proportion of visitors will travel by rail. Also, 26% of hotel guests may travel by rail. No evidence is provided for this figure, and there are no measures to encourage this. Provision of car park cars would mean that visitors wanting to get out into the surrounding area would have the option of using the train and making use of an electric vehicle car park cars, a version of Park and Ride. Electric vehicle car park cars available for residents as well as hotel guests will also help mitigate the loss of parking spaces by reducing pressure on-street parking in the vicinity. The latest car park annual report quote, research estimates that 9 privately owned cars are removed from our roads for every car owned car. Lastly, the provision of the electric vehicle parking cars will help to meet the greenhouse gas emission targets of the Town Council, District Council and National Government, because the cars are zero low emission and they also reduce the number of cars on the road. Thank you. That will answer any questions.
Thank you. Councillors, do you have any questions? No, I see none. So the next speaker, please. Yes.
Hi. My name is Russell Chalice. I was born and bred in Henley. I now live in Maidstone. My mother lives in Windell Close, which is adjacent to the building of the hotel. I just wanted to say that it's very upsetting that this hotel's been built in that position, because, you know, when I bring my kids to see their grandmother, we come down the hill in Henley, and the first thing we can see now when we appear across the bridge is a dirty hotel on the skyline. I think it's an awful decision to make. You know, the kids say what a beautiful town it is. Please don't do this, because when it's built, it's going to stay there for 50, 60 years. It's going to ruin the landscape, it's going to ruin the vista view of all around. You'll be able to see it all over the town. The other thing I wanted to make a quick point about is in Windell Close at the moment, there is a water culvert that comes down from Grays Hill and St Mark's Road, goes into Upton Close and into Windell Close. That on bad storms, that floods. It will flood Windell Close, the road, and it floods Upton Close. Now, I do think by putting a hotel there and the runoff from that hotel, and it's not been taken into account that this is going to flood Windell Close and Upton Close even more. In fact, it might even go into the houses. So it's one of that limited. So if it does happen, we'll be coming back to say this. That's all.
Okay, thank you. And just to reassure you, no decisions have yet been made. This is a planning application. Right. Any questions? No, I see none. The next speaker, please.
No,
Yes. Yes, please do. Yes.
I speak on 2618 Premier Inn Hotel. So where do I start? The mass, the scale, and design. Various comments in the local plan about, say, things like a beautiful market town, proposals for additional visitor accommodation should protect the immunities of the occupants and their own properties, proposals of high quality design, creating high quality buildings and places is fundamental, and so on. And even the applicant says Henley-on-Thames is recognised as a premier visitor destination offering natural attractions and a picturesque market town. Of course, the issue becomes that if you destroy those picturesque attractions which people come to visit, there will be very need for extra accommodation and it damage the existing businesses. Rooms in the hotel needs assessment 2014, it's 7 years old, but it only quantifies hotels and pubs. There's no assessment of B&B or Airbnb. Did Airbnb exist in 2014? Oleander, okay, Leander's not in Oxfordshire, but it's not a long way away. Since 2014, Henley Business School has provided 100 rooms. Red Lions adding 17, Banshall Golf Clubs adding a bunch of rooms. And in fact, in the local plan 3.10, it says, in hotel needs assessment, the two districts show that owing to high house prices in the area, some hotels need to be able to provide on-staff accommodation. No one mentioned that in the application anyway. Parking, I'll skip over quite a bit of that. Suffice to say that the assessment very close to OCC's headroom requirement of 27 spaces. But there's a parking space size issue. OCC want 2.5 or 5.5 meters. This number of 308 relies on a space size of 2.4 by 4.8 meters. They do say, the applicant says that 2.5 by 5 meters reduces from 300 to 303. But if you make what OCC require, it's going to be reduced even more. However, they do say, the applicant, that GWR supports this application. There's no evidence of that. I don't doubt if they write about it. I was trying to hope that later you might tell me whether that's true or not, which is not legally speaking, unfortunately. But there is, are GWR happy to see their customers move from area A by the hotel, which is the primary parking at the moment, to the far end of the car park, and doesn't want to see them have to go through a dark alley, which the pre-app refers to, and the Franklin local plan refers to having space between buildings. Also, there's anecdotal evidence that GWR are happy with charging £2 for 3 hours, the strategy being to create space in the car park, so people don't park there, they park in town. But the applicant in economic benefit, paragraph 1.4, says the application site is currently underused. Well, of course it's underused, that's how good people want it. Underused, so you can park there, they go on the train. It also says that car park does not support any employment. To tell my word that parking there, before she goes to town, is not gainful employment. I'll ask her what she goes up to town for. If you give me 30 seconds,
Yes,
then I'll summarise
if you
what
could.
you've had about.
Yeah, thank
Well,
you.
logistics, I just want to briefly mention on the logistics, the guest arrival departure, the same as very misleading, it's only an hourly service to Paddington and to Reading, and then you've got to change platforms by got a bridge to go over with a suitcase is not going to encourage people, so I don't see the train being used that much. I'll just then summarise and say the policies for refusal was N1, 1, little 3, little 4, DES 1, Para 1, little 7, little 13, DES 6, Para 1, little 1, little 2, EMD 6, Para 2, little 2, EMD 11, Para 4, and our own DQS 1 from our own middle plan. So I will perhaps just conclude by saying that on the pre-app from SODC, on page 14 to page 15, it says, I would suggest that it would be advisable to engage and seek further pre-application advice once the scheme has been developed further. That never happened.
Yeah.
So, question refuse the application. And am I allowed to request to consider pulling it in if you necessarily want to recommend refusal?
Thank you. Would any councillors have any questions, please? No, I see none. Okay. Would any other members of the public like to speak? Yes, please go ahead.
Can I speak before
Of course, yes, yes, yeah, that's fine. No, anybody else? Yes, hello. Okay, thank you. If you could just, yes, if you could just give us your name.
Yes, it's Andrew.
Okay, thank you. Do any of you have any questions for the agent number 86 West Street? No? Okay, that's it. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so that concludes the public participation part of the agenda. Many thanks for your contributions. Now let's move on to item 5 of the agenda, which is plans amended, please. Thank you. Okay, so as we know, we have Jodie joining us. Jodie?
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can. Can't see, but we can hear you. Councillor, can you hear our planning officer? Okay, thank you. Right, so let's start with the first one then, which is P20 S4694. It's a household application for 86 West Street. And I'll take it, please, with the list of building consent, which is P20 S4696, and then 86 West Street. Jodie.
Okay, thank you. So the planning agent has confirmed that the wall at the rear of the property will not be removed, and the planning proposal has been revised following advice received from the conservation officer and the planning officer at SODC. I have no objections to this application, subject to the satisfaction of the Conservation Officer. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, any proposals? Yes, Councillor Pratt?
I know we repeated the last time, but I must admit I agree with Jody. Sorry, if the conservation officer are happy with the application, then one needs to go for approval.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Thank you. Councillor Arlott. Would any other councillor like to speak? No? All those in favour? Thank you. That's carried. And the next item is P21 S1701. It's advertising consent. And I will take it with P21 S1702, which is listed building consent for the Red Lion Hotel, Hart Street, Jodie.
So I would say that your previous comments made on the 1st of June would still apply.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a proposal? Yes, Councillor Clark.
Unless I looked at the wrong plan, if you look at Penny Society comments, and it seems to say that the red line wasn't mentioned, but the superseded or amended plan I saw did say red line.
Very, very, very tiny. Yes.
Yeah, so it's difficult. They've definitely got the recommendation from us, which is good, which is whether we consider the inclusion of the red line at the bottom right hand corner of the signage to be large enough, as it were. They've definitely included it. I don't think there's much wrong with it. I think about this hotel ban and the house. What its purpose was before, and looks like that they're keeping red line itself and now saying red line entitled. Minded to go for approval in this case, unless we wish to just go back and forth asking one size big on the font, but I think the times have been requested.
Okay, so we have a motion for approval. Is that seconded? Councillor Arlott, thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? No? Okay, so all those in favour of approval? Thank you, that's carried. The next item on the agenda is P21 S2510, listed building next to 2 to 4 Bell Street. And again, I will take it with P21 S2562, advertising consent for 2 to 4 Bell Street.
So your previous comments from the 22nd of June would still apply. No comments have been received from the Conservation Officer as yet.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Grant.
As long as the conservation officer's happy, it's got a good job, been very thorough, so it's good.
Yeah, okay. Councillor, is that seconded? Councillor Romans, thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? Yes, Councillor Arlott.
Yeah, they obviously moved, I'm not sure if they moved far enough. All the signage is not in line with the shop front design. That's what was sort of going anyway. So for that reason, I won't be supporting the
Okay, I have to tend to agree with Councillor Arlott on this one. Any just hanging signs are a very prominent part of the town. Would any other councillor like to speak? No. Okay, all those in favour of approval? Okay, thank you. That's fallen. Do we have another proposal, please? Oh, sorry. Apologies. All those against? All those against? I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, thank you. That has fallen. Okay, do you have another proposal, please? Yes, Councillor Arlott.
I was just objecting on the lack of change to the signage to aluminum, plastic, or whatever you want to call it. And I don't think it would hurt to change that much and look at all the other changes that they have made. It's very difficult actually to work with this. There's so many drawings there. You can spend a couple of days actually going through it. But I think in a prime position on the corner there, I think it should be aligned with the shop design. So basically that reason
okay, we have a seconder here. Would any other councillor like to speak? No, I don't see any, so let's go for the vote. All those in favour of refusal? Okay, that's carried, thank you. Okay, so let's move on to the next item on the agenda, which is item number 6, new plans. If I can find one new plans. No, my notes are not on there. Excuse me, I'm just trying to find one. We didn't get our planning agendas this time round, and I think we lost all of my notes. Oh, it's all right, I've got them. Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, so plans new. Let's start with P21 S2034. It's a household application for Paradise Farm. I did actually note, councillors, did you agree that this was an amendment? Okay, let's hear from the planning officer. Is that an amendment?
It's specified as an amendment. I would have to check.
We have made a decision on this one before.
Yeah, you're correct. You recommended approval on the 1st of June.
Okay, thank you. So, councillors, it has actually changed slightly, so let's just debate the amendment, please. Do I have any proposals for the amendment? The amendment is a slight reduction in height, I believe. That's the only amendment that I could see. So, do you have a proposal, Councillor Arlott? Okay, thank you. Is that seconded, Councillor Clark? Thank you. Do you have Councillor right to speak? Yes, Councillor Eastman.
It still looks too high to me, unnecessarily high, and the big roof, it towers over the neighbour's property, and it strikes me as unneighbourly.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have a motion for approval. It's been seconded. Let's go for the vote. All those in favour? All those against? Okay, that's carried. Thank you. And the next one is P21 S2275. It's a household application, and it's for 119 Parkston Road. Yes, Councillor Cook.
I recommend approval, but subject to the fact that they replace a tree, that tree is going to have to come out, isn't it?
Okay, thank you.
They can't put it back, subject to that.
Okay, thank you. Is that seconded? Councillor Grant, thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? No, I see none. Let's go for the vote. All those in favour of approval, subject to the tree being replanted. Thank you. That's carried. And the next one is P21 S2623. It's a householder application, and it's for 25 Nicholas Road. Councillors, Councillor Plant. Thank you. Is that seconded? Thank you. Councillor Romans. Would any other councillor like to speak? No. Let's go for the vote then. All those in favour of approval? Thank you. That's carried. And the next is P21 S2580. It's a household application for 1 Northfield End. And again, I will take this with P21 S2583 with listed building application, again for 1 Northfield End. Jodie.
I had no objections to this. Councillor Thomas, could you continue to say the recommendation for me so I can note it down on the minutes on each application? Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks.
I do myself. Yes, of course I will. Okay, so Councillor Plant.
I recommend approval on the
Thank you. Is that seconded? Councillor Romans, thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? No, I see none. So let's all go for in favour of approval. Raise your hands. Thank you. That's carried. Approval voting. And the next one is 1 Nat Close, and it's P21 S2599, and it's a household application. Any proposals? Yes, Councillor Plant. Thank you. Is that seconded? Councillor Cook, thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? No? Okay, all those in favour of approval? All those against? Not any abstains? No, that's carried. And the next one is P21 S2618. It's a full application and it's for the erection of a hotel with ground floor ancillary bar restaurants, reconfiguration of the existing station car park and other associated works, Henley Railway Station car park, Station Road. Jodie.
Thank you. So hopefully you've had the opportunity to look at my observations earlier today that I sent through. I've considered the pre-application advice by SODC, and I've noted down the relevant policies for each of the main issues that we can refer to in our representation. So in terms of the principle of the application, this would be subject to whether the proposal meets the sequential tests as set out in the MPPF. I won't comment on whether this is acceptable, and an independent consultant will be appointed by SODC and they'll be looking at that in detail. So moving on to the assessment of impacts. Firstly, I note the concerns of the design officer and the landscape officer about the overall massing and the elevation of the development in relation to the surrounding context. Little has been done to address the overall height and massing and the impact on townscape, having regard to the forward position of the building. The street scene elevation drawings as submitted through the planning application highlight the difference in height and scale of the proposed development and the surrounding buildings. It's considered that more could be done to reduce the overall impact on the street scene and the neighbouring properties amenity. This would be in conflict with policy DES 1 of the local plan, which states that development must be of high quality design, and that takes into account landform, layout, building orientation, massing and landscaping. Also in respect to DES 6, which is residential amenity. So moving on to landscape, there looks to be limited change to the proposed landscaping since the pre-application advice has been given. It's lacking along the frontage and within the car park. Suggestions by the SODC ecologist for low-level external lighting to minimise disruption to wildlife and residents, and to designing to incorporate green roof, living walls and bird boxes has not been included. So finally, in terms of highways, OCC have requested a transport assessment and a travel plan, which have been submitted. These would need to demonstrate that the development can be served by an adequate road network and can accommodate traffic in accordance with policy trans 5 of the local plan. In terms of parking, the development would remove the existing 133 car parking spaces and re-provide 83 parking spaces in a reconfigured arrangement with a net loss of 50. They have said in their supporting statement that there would be a delivery of 62 additional spaces, but I have concerns over the impact of this proposed development and the ongoing issue of parking in Henley. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jodie. Before I move to councillors for proposals, I just want to get a sense of what you've all learnt reading your planning agendas over the last week or so in regards to this application. I've got some of my own observations to share with you, but I have to state that I'm extremely disappointed, as probably all of you are, that Premier Inn are not here in person to answer any questions. I'm also very, very annoyed that their agents have not bothered to come here to represent them. And I'm also very concerned that Block have decided not to come along either this evening to answer councillors' questions, which I think shows an utter disregard for Henley Town Council's opinions. Okay, let's move on. Councillor Pratt, would you like to speak?
I was actually just going to reiterate exactly that, because you've got numerous members of this chamber sat with them on multiple occasions before and given them plenty of the feedback that they've completely ignored. And as James just said, whether it's green walls or mass or height or parking spaces, they've done nothing to bring any of our previous comments in. So I'm not entirely surprised that they're not here tonight, because they've had hours to listen to what we've said so far and what we've heard back from the public opinion and haven't taken any of it into account. James done a fantastic job on comments. It's brilliant. I think there's only one public view for this, and this is to reject it on pretty much everything. Julie, you mentioned that you've got elevation, mass, scale, lack of design, fact of design, maybe it's overbearing, it's completely out of keeping with the street scene. It might enhance it more confidence, the character of the landscape. The net loss of parking is tragic, considering the parking problem currently having is only getting worse. Not to mention the fact it's a huge building project. Noise in building, noise in such a building would be completely unacceptable, and it is alone needs to work. So I think if there's only one thing, unless they willing to drastically change the application, lower it 2 floors, decrease the size, and make it slightly more secure in the street scenes,
Thank you, Councillor Rowlands.
Thank you. I mean, having given this matter some thought, not just this evening, but coming into this meeting, the following terms I would use to describe this application are shodden, ill-conceived, ill-thought out, and quite frankly, arrogant. I mean, when I've listened to the concerns that Jody has raised, the concerns that the public have raised, it just feels like to me that somebody's trying to dump a giant concrete block in the middle of Henley with no regard whatsoever. People who live here, or for the town, are absolutely anything. And I think it's fair to say, I mean, I totally agree with Councillor Clark, this is going to go in one direction and one direction only. I only hope that, I mean, once we've rejected it, we can stop the decision being overruled by a higher authority such as South Oxford District Council, but I won't comment any further.
Thank you. Yes, I'm just going to Madam Mayor.
Some agree with Councillor Clark and Councillor Rowlands. This is a very ugly building. This building isn't Henley. It's absolutely totally out of character. The loss of parking is frightening. We need parking in Henley. The height is overbearing for those that live in window close. I wouldn't want to look out my window and see that building. There has been absolutely no thought, I don't think, about us, about Henley, and even in Marlow, I believe, the Premier Inn, I think it's actually slightly in keeping. And this is totally out of keeping with Henley, and I'm absolutely attending the view of this.
Thank you, Councillor Clark.
Okay, right. That's what I'm concerned over the loss of parking, because before COVID, a lot of perpetual workers were parking outside the spaces in the car park, and it was a real concern that it would be a fire risk, because there would be cars blocking that entrance to there, and it's going to be even more of a fire risk now. And also, where are the taxis going to park? Because everything is a taxi place. I'm concerned that the substation being put so near to the residents of Upton Post. And also, when I was looking at the building materials, one thing that really has concerned me, and it really has upset me in a way, because when people put down what building materials they use, there's no actual specification. They said grey cladding board, and that alarmed us looking in. Because when I phoned up the autumn planning, the man said to me, oh yeah, I think they want to use grey cladding board, because they're requiring that they still not use it. In other words, cheaper product, could be anything they use. But he said, something now said that he used that. It's not actually specified what they will use. And when I googled Cameron, the measurement Cameron had the same cladding as Grenfell. Do we really want that in Henley? Do we want people in a fire building that could go up? My concern is the fact that laundry is so near the fire exits as well. It's just it's an accident making. Do we really want to do something like that? No, they just do not far too high. You know, they just don't care. They just can't what they're doing. It's really money cost. And the fact that they can put, you on earth would want to put grey cladding on a building knowing it's a fire risk and allow people to stay there? What sort of people are you? Don't design that, cut holes, it's disgusting. Sorry, I'm really upset now.
Thank you, Councillor Crook. Would any other councillor like to speak? Yes, Councillor Eastman.
Well, I've tried to look at this application in a positive and constructive way, and I've not really managed to succeed, I'm afraid. It's, apart from possibly bringing some commercial and economic development to the town, there's just so much against it, as we've already heard. It's big and ugly, and it really couldn't be much worse if they'd tried, in my opinion. And as Jody said, they haven't made any attempts to reduce the effect of the street scene with their amendments. And of course, that very approach tells us that what we're doing here is engaging in damage limitation. And we shouldn't have to be doing it. We should be looking at something that is going to improve the town, not just reduce the damage that's been done by this unwelcome development. And lastly, the loss of the parking spaces. Well, Henry needs fewer parking spaces. Said no one ever. I mean, 50 spaces being lost. How can that be sustainable? How can that be? How can that be right for the development of town? How can that be right for our issues with climate change? How can that be right in reducing pollution? Reducing car parking places is just going to make people. It's going to increase the use of them and increasing the car usage both into Henley, into that site, and into the town centre, because it's outside the town centre. So it's difficult to see any positive reasons why we should approve this, and there are plenty of reasons why we should object to it, which I will be doing.
Thank you. Councillor Arnott's abstaining this evening on any decisions about you speaking. I did a little bit of research. I mean, apart from my weekend reading, which is all of the policy in the South Oxfordshire local plan, district council plan, which is completely not adhered to, as former Mayor of Henley laid out for us earlier. Thank you very much for your research. I had a look at some of the numbers in surrounding towns for the Premier Inn. Maidenhead, population 70,000 people, 124 beds. High Wycombe, population 125,000, 108 beds. Henley-on-Thames, population 11,600, beds 115. So you can see when councillors talk about scale, massing, overdevelopments, infrastructure, our roads, we do not have roundabouts, we don't have ring roads, we don't have dual carriage roads. We cannot cope with a development of this size in our small market town. So I agree with other councillors, we should need to refuse this application. And what I'm going to propose is that we do so. Do I have a seconder? Thank you. What I will do is I will ask our planning officer to write at length, stating outlining all of the reasons for objections, including all of the planning policy, from the national planning policy framework all the way down to the neighbourhood plan, everything in between. And I will look at that perhaps with Councillor, who would like to look at that with me? Councillor Rowlands would like to. Thank you very much. We'll look at that together and make sure that that is submitted. Okay, all those in favour of refusal? All those abstaining? Thank you. Thank you, councillors. Right, let's move on to the next item. Do you think she, I think she would have heard that one maybe. Thank you. And the next one is B21, S2620, it's a household application, 43 Maidlands Road, Councillor Plant. approval. Is that seconded? Councillor Arnold, thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? No? Okay, all those in favour of approval? Thank you, that's carried. Approval, Jodie, thank you. And the next two I will take together. We've got P21, S2651, it's a household application. And we've got P21, S2652, listed building consents. Loft conversion of rear roof light for 72 West Street. Jodie.
I had no objections to this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillors, Councillor Romans.
I'm happy to propose acceptance, providing the conservation officer has no issue with it. It is listed building.
No, thank you. Seconded, Councillor Grant, thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? No, okay. All those in favour of approval? Thank you. That's approval, Jodie, thank you. And if you just turn over the page 12, we've got P21, S2719, it's a household application, and that's for Overington, Parkston Way. Councillors, Councillor Plant.
Approval.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Councillor Arnold, thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? No, I see none, so let's move for approval. Those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. Approval, Jodie, thank you. And the next one, the next two actually I'll take together. P21, S2742, it's a household application, 5 New Street. And P21, S2743, a listed building application, 5 New Street. Jodie.
No objections. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. Councillor Plant.
I'll approve as mine.
Oh, thank you. Is that seconded? Yes, Councillor Romans, thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? No? Okay, all those in favour of approval? Thank you, that's carried. The next one, P21 S2758, which is a full application for Highways Rodfield Road. I thought that was an amendment. Do councillors agree? Jodie, can you hear me? Can you just please check that one point for me?
It was refused planning permission last year. That was based on lack of mitigation for presence of bats within the existing buildings. So my comment would be no objection, subject to the satisfaction of the ecology officer.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Councillor Plant.
Approval. I'm happy to have a bit in about that.
Okay.
It's going to be an expensive pat box for some time.
Okay, so that's seconded. Councillor Crook, thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? No, I will see none. So let's go for the motion of approval, subject to the condition. All those in favour? Thank you. That's approval with condition, Jodie. And the next one is P21, S2782, and it's a household application. It's for 3 David Gardens. Councillors, Councillor Plant.
No, I'm drinking that house. It's definitely yes.
You're typically Councillor Lawrence, you know how.
Is that seconded? Thank you. Anyone seconding? Councillor Romans, thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? No, I see none. Let's go for the vote then. All those in favour of approval? Thank you, that's carried. And the next one is P21, S2800, and it's a household application for 42 Cromwell Road. Councillors, Councillor Plant. Thank you, that's seconded. Councillor Cook, thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? Yes, Councillor Romans.
I'll abstain as it's another.
Okay, thank you for that. Would any other councillor like to speak? No, okay, let's go for the motion of approval then. All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. So that concludes that part of the agenda. So let's go back to our original agenda. That's on the papers on the desk before. Right, so the next item is number 7, objections to calling applications. Do we have any? I don't think we even need to take a vote on that one. Okay, so we'll be calling that one in. Thank you. Okay, number 8, decision notices, just to note those, please. Any observations about those? No? Okay, thank you. And number 9, which will be a appeal decision, P19 S4054, full application for 52 and 54. That has got in Hentown Council's favour. Councillor Rowley, did you want to speak to it?
Yeah, probably start on that one, Chairman. Right, and I think that's the best thing to see on this one. One of the reasons put in there for the reason was the lack of parking, which was agreed by SABC. But unfortunately, when they put in their submission on the appeal, they didn't put the policy in there for SABC's parking, which I found quite strange. So I've written to Adrian yet to get a reply on why that wasn't put in the document. And then similar actually on Montford Road on by Palmer or whatever it's called up there. We won the appeal, but we lost it on affordable housing. If we put our policies on affordable housing, we would have won that, but they obviously didn't put that much information on there. And I said to Adrian Sheffield that we should go by the mistakes. Although we're winning the appeals, we're not winning on all the items that are put forward because simply SABC's officers aren't putting sufficient information in to win the appeal on certain items. Because if we would have won that one there on parking, we've got another application for that on 18 Duke Street in fact a week's time. If we've got the site visit on, then we could use that as a reason for 18 Duke Street, proposing 5 flats with no parking. But I still put it forward for a reason. So yeah, so it's another appeal at 7 out of 8, which shows I think
it's a good record.
That we're getting things right, and it's a bit of a concern that the officers are getting things so wrong. And I think I'm going to make another speech later on the CBC on planning.
On land supply?
No.
No, okay. Well, not the land supply. Okay, so thank you for that, Councillor. Thank you for that, those insights. Oh, sorry, Councillor Pine, go ahead.
I just know what's the breakdown of the change? If they anything that you said about parking, where is that not continuing to do from that out?
The officer that puts the CBC's submission in the appeal, they're the ones that are missing out. It's a pity they shouldn't leave it to the last minute before they put their submissions in. I don't know why. It would be handy if they were to just send a copy to the draft copy to the local council to read them before they send it. But maybe they almost leave these to the last day.
Risky. Okay, so let's move on to item 10 on the agenda, which is the Thames Farm surface water drainage proposals. We have an update from our town clerk.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the developers of the Thames Farm development in Shiplake, Taylor Wimpey, have submitted a flood risk assessment and drainage survey as part of the discharge of conditions. This was brought to our attention back in March when we received a draft version of the report that they were to submit, and various concerns were raised about it. We commissioned a report back in March from a company called HR Wallingford, and we were then waiting for Taylor Wimpey to submit their final report, which they did a couple of weeks ago. We then asked for our consultants, HR Wallingford, to appraise the final report and revise their report on the basis of any changes in final report, which weren't that great. And that's why it's been added to the agenda, because several concerns were raised about the impact of the development and the proposals on flooding in Henley. We do have the final report back from HR Wallingford, and also a report that I've prepared summarising the points. However, they weren't. We weren't able to get them until yesterday, so there wasn't sufficient time for the committee to consider the reports. I have asked the case officer at the District Council for an extension, and they've confirmed that they will accept comments following the next planning committee meeting on the 3rd of August. And so with that, I would recommend that the committee add it to the agenda for the next planning committee meeting. Thank you.
Any questions from councillors? Yes, Councillor Osman.
You said that the District Council agreed to take comments right up to the point of the decision. You mean comments from this town council or comments from individuals, generally, residents in Pembrey and the surrounding areas?
Yes, certainly. Comments from, they have said that they will take comments from any individuals who wish to comment on it up until the point that it is determined, which they don't believe will be anytime soon. They've said probably at least 2 months.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. Councillor Oller, did you have anything to add?
No, we're going to arrange another meeting with Shipload and Heights. Do we need to do that before we submit our
So we have forwarded the report on to various stakeholders, including Harpston Parish Council, Shiplake Parish Council, and various landowners who will be directly affected. My suggestion has been that now that we have the final report, I would put together recommendations for our response, and which they could then feed into, and which we could then bring back to this committee for approval.
Yes,
what about residents of Mill Lane? Have we contacted them? And obviously, Aldridge trying to get involved with this one to understand why. But from what I was reading, SODC allegedly don't need to contact residents of Mill Lane, which I found very strange.
Well, technically, the consultation, as far as I understand it, is not a statutory consultation. They don't have to. I believe they've chosen to on this occasion because of the strength of concern about the proposals. So they haven't. I don't believe that they have contacted all of the stakeholders directly. I believe that they have contacted those who have said that they wish to be contacted. However, we have let all of the nearby landowners know, so residents of Mill Lane, AFC Henley, the Culden 4 estates as well. So as far as I'm aware, all the potentially directly affected landowners are aware.
Thank you. Any other questions, councillors? No, okay, thank you. We'll be discussing this in the next meeting. Right, so we have next item number 11, which is the Climate Emergency 2030 Working Group. Number 1, to consider the reports and recommendations from the Climate Emergency 2030 Working Group regarding the Climate and Ecology Bill. And 2, to receive the draft notes on the meeting of the Climate Emergency 2030 Working Group held on the 29th of June 2021. And the reports and notes are attached. And we are very pleased to have a member from the Climate Emergency Working Group who would like to address the council, the planning committee, anyway. Whenever you're ready.
I believe that would like to address the
Oh, she's hybrid, is she?
Yes.
Sorry to call you hybrid. Hello, please go ahead whenever you're ready.
I think you're talking to me. Shall I go ahead?
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, it's a little bit difficult to hear. So my name's Kate Aldridge. I'm a campaigner for the Sea Bill Alliance Oxfordshire, which is promoting the Sea Bill the Climate and Ecological Emergency Bill campaign in Oxfordshire. I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity to speak about the ecological emergency and CBIL motion, and thank you for allowing me to attend virtually today. I'm very proud to live in a town that has already declared a climate emergency and whose climate emergency working group has made great strides to start taking steps to reduce the town's carbon footprint, and which also has a very impressive array of wonderful community groups which are doing amazing work to help protect our natural environment. In relation to the ecological emergency, you will probably, I'm sure, all know that the natural world has reached crisis point. We're hearing about it all the time on the news, on the TV. Scientists tell us that we've entered the 6th mass extinction event. There's been a 68% decline in the abundance of life, according to the World Wildlife Fund, and 1 million species face extinction. The climate and ecological crises are intrinsically interconnected. The Council has already declared a climate emergency, so the next logical step is to declare an ecological emergency, and time is absolutely critical here. We are seeing evidence all around us, including here in Henley, about how ecological issues are impacting nature and wildlife and making the climate crisis even worse. So I just want to turn to any reservations in the room on declaring an ecological emergency. We absolutely understand that Henley Town Council does not have unlimited funds and it will be constrained by its budget. The council can't do everything. The declaration would be a demonstration that the council is fully aware of the ecological emergency and will do everything it can within the constraints of its budget to take what action it reasonably can, as other councils are increasingly doing all over the country. And also, I just want to say as well that an acknowledgement, as the council did in relation to the climate emergency, rather than a declaration, is a halfway house that will look like the council is not fully committed to take action. A declaration must be put in place now, which will serve to instigate a process to get the policies and processes in place after the declaration. As far as I'm aware, a declaration doesn't legally require action to be taken, so the council will have time to adjust policies and procedures. And by only acknowledging now, it may create the impression that the council is not fully committed to taking action to protect the natural world. But a clear declaration of an ecological emergency will signal Henley Town Council's commitment to protect and restore the natural environment around Henley and to consider ecological concerns at the heart of council decision making going forward. It will build upon work that is already being done by the council and community groups, and importantly, it will help to build awareness amongst residents about the ecological crisis and inspire them to take action. Sir David Attenborough has said, if we have not taken dramatic action within the next decade, we could face irreversible damage to the natural world and the collapse of our societies. We have got to move now, and time is more critical now than it was when the council acknowledged the climate emergency some time ago now. Also, on behalf of the CBIL Alliance Oxfordshire, I'm asking the Planning Committee to support the CBIL, the Climate and Ecological Emergency Bill. This is a cross-party bill which would enshrine in law a commitment to deliver policy and action in line with the latest science and with our government's own ambitions. It's the only proposed legislation which addresses the interconnected crises in climate and nature with annual binding targets. It's gathering huge momentum, and in Oxfordshire, the County Council, the City Council, South Oxfordshire District Council and Witney Town Councils have all passed motions to support it, and we are now working with the other Oxfordshire councils to get the bill through. Businesses and organisations are fast signing up to the bill, including Breakspear, Hobbs of Henley and Ella's Kitchen. And we have just recently renewed our open letter working group. So we are intending to bring on many more organisations over the next few months. And next week, we're going to be announcing a very high profile celebrity, Henley-based celebrity, who's going to be backing the national campaign. So there's going to be a lot in the press about it. Having Henley Town Council's support would be hugely influential and would mark Henley as taking a responsible stance in relation to the climate and ecological emergency. We have a responsibility to take the right actions now to provide a stable future for all of us and especially our children. I'm asking you all as members of the Planning Committee, as community leaders, to be on the right side of history and vote in favour of supporting the CBIL. And that's my submission. Thank you.
Thank you. Patrick, did you want to speak?
I think my speech will be a little shorter. I probably need to actually. I'd like to draw attention to, Kate mentioned it, the work that the council is doing, and the impact assessment, I think, speaks to that. It talks about the biodiversity impact is adopting as a recommendation would raise awareness of the council's existing conservation work and would create expectations of new projects and high quality standards. I think that what we're facing with the collapse of the ecological systems, actually farming, it's in around us, in parks and so on, it's all the way through. What we're facing there is potentially life-threatening for us, ultimately, and it's something that we feel very strongly would like your support to help to address that. But something that it really that comes out is it will raise awareness. That means that you'll be thought leaders for the public, for people, for residents of Henley, and that's what we're asking really on that. And on climate emergency, so that adopting this will raise awareness of the programme of the climate emergency projects as well. So it's what we need. We need the public. We can't do it ourselves. Henley Council can't do it by itself. Henley can't do it by itself. We desperately need to engage with the public. And we feel this is going to be a very important step. And I think what I'd like to do is just I've got here this was passed last time. It's the action plan, and it just pick out three things. Working with farmers to encourage sustainable farm management. That's on the action plan at the moment. This will help to reinforce that. Then we got my favourite, which is implementing tree planting. But that's rewilding, it's all of the aspects of hedge laying and all of that. And I think again, this ecological emergency, is bringing that front and foremost, not relying on technology, relying on natural processes to save our planet. And the last one, really, I think that is, it's down here, encourage and implement policies on biodiversity. It's in the plan. What we want you to do here today is to vote for this, to drive this plan through.
Okay, thank you. Councillors, do you have any questions for either Patrick or for Kate? No. Okay. Yes, sorry. Oh, Councillor Gramshag, hello. Good evening. Did you wish to speak to this item?
Hello, yes. What? Can you hear me? Sorry?
Yeah.
It's all right. I heard Kate very, very clearly, and I didn't hear a lot of what Patrick had said. And I'm sure it was actually very, very good. Anyway, councillors, I'm sorry I haven't been there this evening. I was at an SODC meeting, and what is deemed to be a fairly exciting evening, although I haven't seen most of it. But dealing with this. This is a motion that has come from Henley's own Climate Emergency Committee, and it was unanimously adopted by that committee by a majority vote. So therefore, they were absolutely in favour of passing this. Kate has already alluded that SODC and OCC have approved similar motions. It does state very, very clearly that it limits the global warming to 1.5 degrees, or it aims to, at least. But the main bulk of this bill is to actually try and protect habitats and ecology, which, as Kate eloquently said, in the world we are losing. There are two reasons why we've brought this motion to the council. Is to send a message on two levels. Firstly, to say Henley is in favour of the climate emergency bill, the climate emergency ecology bill. That's the first thing, that's the message. But we've also got to recognise that we have to do our bit in Henley. And I know full well that Parks, Councillor Hinton, Councillor Crook, Patrick from Greener Henley, are all doing absolutely fantastic work in preserving habitats within the zone of Henley. And what we should do is do more of that. Whenever we pass new policies, it should be taken into account. It won't become an overriding policy because there are other nuances to be taken into account. But it's taken into account going forward. Kate has already alluded that, in fact, lots and lots of businesses in Henley are actually signing up to this as well. So therefore, I would heartily recommend the recommendations on page 24. It's a resolve to recommend, so therefore it's not a decision of the planning committee full stop. It will be going to full council. And I urge you to support the recommendations on page 24 of your paper. Fiona, the administrator of the Climate Committee, has said that is a great opportunity to adopt the recommendation because it would raise awareness of the council's existing conservation work and would create expectations of new projects and higher policy standards on biodiversity going forward. And that's what we should all aspire to. So I heartily recommend that you pass this particular recommendation. Thank you, Chair. Enough from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Goucher. Councillors, let's do what we did before. Let's go around the table and let's hear your thoughts about this one. Who would like to start? Councillor Arnott?
Yes, Jim, just to clarify, Councillor Goucher had to be still there. First of all, he said it was unanimous, and then he said it was a majority vote. It actually was a majority vote, and I actually abstained on it. The problem I have with this is the first item, the ecological emergency. What would worry me with this, we've got 2 or 3 projects on the go that I don't want to support them, but what worries me, we've got some projects on the go at the moment, and each one of those will come forward with a officer's report, which we're doing now. But I'm a bit worried that everything we're going to do in the future, someone's going to find a problem because we've signed up to or we've declared the ecological emergency. Supporting it with me is fine, but I think we may go a little bit too far if we declare an ecological emergency. And then it stops us doing some of the projects that we wish to do. We haven't got any reports on anyway that we've already signed on to. And with that, so I have no problem with supporting the plan to ecological emergency work. And I'm also the last item, item 5, we like to see the All Alliance, etc., I'm not sure what we need to do to write them for. I'm sure they know what they're doing, we've never let it from to match up to. So I'm in favour of 2, 3, and 4, but I wouldn't be supporting 1 and 5. No of the recommendation on page 24.
Thank you, Councillor Arnott. Yes, Councillor Eastman.
Kate spoke very clearly, as did Patrick and Stefan, about the dangers that we face, the dangers to life on Earth actually remaining sustainable. And it seems obvious to me, as it is with climate change, that we have to take action. We have to take action to reverse the trend and reverse the dangers, and make sure that the planet does remain fit for life, and we don't suffer another mass extinction or even loss of life completely. And the only way we'll do that is by taking action, both nationally, internationally, through the bill, but also locally through organisations like our Climate Emergency Working Group and Green League, and so on. Words do matter though, because we can set an example. we can inspire people, we can cause people to question the importance of what we're saying here about the dangers we face. And so Henley Town Council, as a high-profile, prominent organisation, will affect it just by saying that we recognise that there is an emergency and that we are going to take action to fight the threats to those to life that we have here. So words do matter, and words do influence people. And I know when we declared the climate emergency, there was concern that we were going to declare it, but then not follow it up with action. And as a result, as Kate said earlier, we acknowledged the emergency, but we took a little bit longer in order to actually declare it. And Kate referred to this, but I think there is benefit in declaring it, as long as it's followed up soon with a clear set of actions that we can take, which follow up on those words. So we have to do both at once. We can't. I think the declaration is valuable, and the support that we give to other organisations and to lobby MPs and so on is valuable, because the bill will make a difference. It does enshrine in law the requirements of this country to help to reduce and reverse the threats that we face. So I will vote in favour of all 5 of these, if we get a chance to vote them when they're proposed, because I think they all in their different ways add to the problem, to the facing up and the dealing with the problems that we face to our planet, to the environment, through the ecological emergency that I'm sure is there, and I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Thank you, Councillor Enslin. Any other councillor like to speak to this? Yes, Councillor Cook.
With everything being said, and as I'm Vice Chair of Climate Emergency, I can't exactly go on that. I know. It's dark, isn't it? Yeah. I think we do need to something to carry that in the sound of what will be part of it, and then
That's the point.
I should say that it's a great opportunity as well for us to use our understanding and now new website and social media presence. I think call for more volunteers again, call to action. In it, like Councillor Rossman said, it's all well and good doing this, but and foot soldiers provide all the actions that then follow. And we're very fortunate to have numerous others that help out, but each kind of new action brings many new tasks with it. So at the same time, declaring use those 3 social media website presidents to try and call for more volunteers to come forward and help out, that would be fantastic. But just so that those in the residents in the area, shop owners, business owners know that they can get involved as well.
Yes, I don't know. I just want to. I feel support this absolutely, and literally everything Councillor Rice just said, I feel support, and I think we should absolutely go with 5.1, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I think Councillor Rice.
Nothing further for us.
Yes.
It was just one small clarification, if I may. The council has, in fact, since 2006, under the Natural Environment and Rural Communities Act, Section 40, had a statutory duty to consider the impact of this decision making on biodiversity. So this does strengthen that, but it is something that we've already enshrined within our processes, within our officers' reports. And I believe I've just confirmed with our projects officer today that we're hoping to deliver some climate emergency and ecological awareness training to councillors in October.
Okay, councillors, let me just let you know where I stand on this. This was such a weighty agenda for us this week. We had, I mean, up until very late, I thought we were going to be looking at Thames Farm, and of course we had the Premier in. When we went to climate emergency, we didn't have these big weighty subjects on the agenda at all, and I therefore feel that I don't have enough information. I have total respect, obviously, for the working group and for Kate and everyone who's contributed, but I personally like to have time and space to do my own research, and I don't feel that I am as well informed as I should be to take a decision like this. Like I say, I only found out on Sunday that this was coming up, which just didn't give me enough time, I'm afraid, to do my own research. And as the councillor who did all of the research with the climate emergency, and I recommended that we acknowledge, take a step back, put some funds in place, put some people in place to ensure that we would be just paying lip service to declaring that we could actually take action, meaningful action. I would like the time and space to do that again. I appreciate it's an emergency, but I'm hoping that just another few more weeks would give us the time and space we needed to make sure that we've spoken to everyone, all of the staff that would be affected, perhaps get some residents' views as well, and go from there. So I apologise if I'm going against, all of my colleagues here, but that is my own way of working. Be it right or wrong, I just don't feel well informed enough. I don't know if any of you actually attended the talk on the CE bill. I did attend that, but there were no dissenting voices there, of course, so you don't get a balanced argument at all. And I did intend to go off and do my own research, but of course put it down and didn't pick it up again. So yeah, that's my position. Yes, Madam Mayor.
Chairman, I really respect you for that. And I think, absolutely, if you get the pretty, what I'm thinking, happy with what you've put in front of me, having a time, then I agree that we should still have 2 weeks for all to read through it all and then bring it back to the table. Yeah. So I absolutely agree with you.
Okay. Okay, well listen, councillors, I'm going to put a proposal together now. I may get a second, I may not. I'm going to propose that we resolve to recommend items number 2, 3, 4 and 5, and that we defer item 1 to the next committee meeting. Okay, do I have a seconder? Thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? Yes,
Can I just ask, I'm just checking my diary. When is full council? Is it 1 week or 2 weeks? It's 2 weeks, isn't it?
It would go to the next planning, which is...
Well, what I was going to suggest was that we're only making a recommendation here. So if we make a recommendation in the next 2 weeks, we can get the facts. I perfectly respect your argument, and I wouldn't be unhappy if it went through. I think I'm not going to vote for it. I think I'm going to vote for declaring it, but I don't mind it. But if we have 2 weeks in which time we can understand better both sides of the argument, and we can assemble some actions. And I think what you did with the climate emergency working that we declared worked out very well, and it was very successful. And we could model that again. But is 2 weeks enough time for us to put together a set of actions which allow us to say we're not just declaring an ecological emergency. We have here a set of 3 actions that we will take as a result of that, which we can do in the next 12 months, which show that we are taking seriously and it's not just empty words, which I think is your concern.
Yeah.
Quite right.
I mean, I prefer to have the full 3 weeks before the next planning committee, which is why I proposed it the way I have. So we could put 2, 3, 4 and 5 to full council, to give them time to absorb that as well, because you get all of your papers well in advance. But number 1, I think, should come back to planning again, and that then would go to the next full council after that. Okay, is that clear? Councillor Reisman, you're not looking clear.
Well,
this is my proposal. It's been seconded.
You made the proposal, been second. I was going to suggest an amendment, which is that we follow what you suggested last time, which is that we acknowledge the ecological emergency, and we can then declare it as when we feel we're ready and we've got the actions put in place.
I'm happy to accept the amendment. Yeah, okay. I'm happy to accept that amendment. You're happy to accept it as a second. Yeah. Okay. All right. So the proposal then is as. I don't know if you did, Councillor Reisman, I should sum up really, shouldn't I? It's my proposal.
Yeah, you made it.
Sorry, it's been such a long thing. Okay, I'm getting ahead.
You're nearly there.
Yeah, I'm nearly there. So the proposal is that the committee resolves to recommend, number 1, that we acknowledge a climate emergency. Number 2, supports the climate and ecological emergency bill. Number 3, informs the local media of the decision. 4, writes an open message on how MP shared with our residents through local and social media, urging him to sign up to support to the bill. And 5, writes to the CE Bill Alliance, the organisers of the campaign of the bill, and the CE Bill Alliance Oxfordshire, the organisers of the Oxfordshire campaign for the bill, expressing its support. All those in favour? All those against? Okay, thank you. That is carried. Thank you. Right, let's see if there's anything else on our agenda. We've got item number 12, progress report for applications called in on page 31. Okay, do we have any updates, Jodie or Councillor Arlett?
I've got the member with conservations refused banks to come up. We come to the practice that went through 6 million over to the planning commission. Noted 18 June Street, we've got a site visit next Monday. Typically, the only vote from the market commission. The red line goes out and maybe a decision on it to come up as well. Can I just speak just very briefly on this one? My agenda for the SABC full council came through today, and I only read this this afternoon, but you're probably aware, I spoke about this probably a year ago, SOBC decided that they wanted to take more dedicated powers on plan applications. So if we pull a plan application in, and basically they didn't feel that we should have pulled it in, they could make a delegated decision on that. As far as the ones we called in, they've always been in touch with me first if they wish to change it, and they haven't changed it on their own. But what's happened now, they've decided, because as it's working so smoothly and it's gone so well, and more dedication has taken place, they want to now make it, put it into their constitution that more dedication will take place. And they're given all these percentages, etc., etc., etc. But what worries me, which they haven't mentioned, is which I mentioned this evening, over the last 2 years, we've had 8 appeals for Henley, which we've won 7. You know, all those 7 were against officers' recommendations for approval. Now, a lot of those, if I hadn't thought for those to go to committee, the officers would have made a delegated decision on approval, which now shows the inspector would have overruled that. So obviously I'll be speaking against this on Thursday at SABC. But it's a typical way they can manoeuvre without really letting planning committee know, or nothing's come to the planning committee on what they're suggesting. It's all a little bit underhand. So we're likely to put this tonight. The last thing you want really is when obviously you're given too much delegation on planning, because obviously, you know, the information I will give them on my percentages are a lot higher on the percentages that they're giving to us. So that comes upon person. That's it.
Yes, Councillor Fine.
Yeah, I think we should speak strongly against that, because even though it may have sensitivities to show it working, that's only now with the current officers in place. If there's nothing for the future when officers change with different views and different opinions, then they might go drastically against our favours. So we'll speak strongly against this section.
Well, the other thing I should have mentioned, because they've been so overworked, they've had to cancel two of the planning committees because there have been enough applications to go on the committee.
Extraordinary. Well, thank you for that update. Okay,
Can I
let's...
speak to that?
Yes.
I'd like to congratulate Councillor Albert for fighting Henley's corner in the way that he's done. And without his efforts, without his careful consideration of the and the rest of this planning committee backing him, we'd have seen 7 out of those 8 go through on officers' delegated powers, which were then found by the committee to be unsuitable for approval. That should be a concern to us, that the planning committee, the district council and the officers are so out of sync that 7 out of 8 they can get wrong. And leaving aside any possible change to increased delegation, we should be looking at why are the 2 out of sync? What is it about the officers and the committee which show that they're not working in the same way or interpreting the rules in the same way? And I think we should make that point very strongly. And now's as good a time as any, in view of those results, to say the officers and the committee should sit down together and look at those 7. Why did the officers get them wrong? Why were their views different? And how can that be avoided in the future? Because there must be a lesson here to learn. Because, you know, a lot of what we do here, unfortunately, as we've already seen, is defending Henley from applications which aren't right for the town and aren't wanted by the residents. And we need to make sure that it doesn't take a huge amount of effort, Councillor Arlott and you, Madam Chair, in defending our rights. We should be making sure that what's happening at the district council officers and the planning committee is looking after our interests and is making the right decisions for the town. Far more than 1 in 8, which is a long way short of satisfaction.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you say. Councillor Gavashek, are you still with us? No, okay. Yeah, I agree, and I hope Councillor Hillier would mind me mentioning her this evening, because she feels exactly the same way, that officers, obviously are not in sync with Henley Town Council planning and other towns and parishes in the district. And Councillor Hillier did state to me, and I'm sure she has stated to Councillor Arlott, that we want to understand why there is this complete disparity between the 2. I'll share a conversation I had once when I was trying to fight for LA Fitness. Share a conversation I had with one of the planning officers there. I won't say which one. She said that a lot of the planning decisions were based on the department budgets. Basically what they do is they budget for a certain amount of paying for appeals which have been awarded. Yes, that can take up a lot of money, but I think it's money well spent, actually, when you're defending community assets, for instance, such unsuitable development such as premiering. But they don't seem to see it like that, and I don't understand why they don't see it like that. And I'm so pleased that Sheridan decided, as one of the first things he did in the staffing review in the Town Council, was to take on a planning officer who doesn't just give councillors what she thinks we want to hear, she gives a totally professional, arbitrary opinion by looking at planning policy and seeing if it was that all the decisions made a sound, all the applications are sound against these planning policies. And that has helped us immensely. Instead of having to pay expensive consultants and such like, our planning officer does all of that for us. And it's really important that the town, just like Kent and Didcot, have their own planning officer, but we've done that here at Henley-on-Thames. So yeah, I think anything we can do to try and understand and better that relationship with officers at SODC would be welcome. Any other comments?
Can I just say, I intended my comments to be constructive, not criticism, not critical of the district council officers. Just to be clear.
Well, no, I didn't take it as a criticism.
Yeah,
I hope officers at SODC didn't take mine as a criticism. But there is obviously, some kind. It's not an agenda. And obviously they obviously do have to look at budgets. But like I said, I really do think it's money well spent. But yeah. Councillor Arlett, would you keep us updated on that? Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, we've got the last item on the agenda, which is the progress report, agenda item 13. Did any councillor want to run through any of this? Councillor Gavishak? Councillor Gavishak isn't here anymore. We've got.
I am here.
As long as you start with I'll be brief.
I'll be very brief.
Jodie, are you still here? Have you got any updates for us on the progress report?
I don't really. The first one was there's no update. I don't think so. I'm aware about the training for DES 8 and DES 10, so I'll look at that and I'll contact SODC about they were going to do some updated information to support their local plan, so I'll get an update from them for next time.
Something I did want to mention, I don't know if you've got any updates, Councillor Arlett, for the last item, the Elizabeth Road double yellow lines. Did you have an update on that? I saw that the white line had been done, but there was no improvement to the parking.
No, but basically what happened there was that the project manager at the Rochester County Council, not to delay things, but they said they've got a white line around the corner into the road. It seems to be working quite well, actually. If we'd have gone through of the process, we've probably been sitting here in a year's time talking about will they put double lines there or not. So we've decided to put the white line there, which is a very straight away, it worked quite well when the white line was running town. So we're just going to keep an eye on it and see if people do carry on through the pathway to the corner. At the moment it's working well. So that was basically working with another council.
That's right. Do you think we can take this off, or would you like to keep it on to keep an eye on it? Take it off. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, Councillor Plant.
I think that's worked quite well. It's probably a process that we use in other areas where we have similar problems because we've done so quickly.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that's the end of the meeting. Yes.
No, just ask a question because I wanted to speak on behalf of the code application. But is it in the word? Is it online written?
Unfortunately, how it works is public participation is at the beginning.
I know, I wasn't open the word. I was waiting online. I just even down now because my hand was raised throughout the meeting. Nobody acknowledged me online, and I just went down now because what was only chance for me to speak.
But which application is it regarding?
Application, the 40 Kings Road, and it's P21 S1863. That is the first new application on the agenda, and I never heard it be mentioned what it was missing in the website.
I don't think we had that one here.
But it was on the agenda or the online agenda.
We haven't discussed it this evening, I'm sorry.
The 13th of July. And so this is the largest check of the phone.
What was the address again?
You were talking about 43 Kings Road, that was on the last.
That's the last agenda.
That's already been discussed.
But we haven't had any information about that application at all. We just say plan to 2021 is S1 and 17.
Excuse me, it was on the last agenda.
But we haven't been told anything about it.
What are you expecting to be told about
We
it?
haven't been acknowledged from forward or backwards or anything.
From who?
By going to this national website.
Yeah, so we are not the planning authority.
Yeah.
So the planning authority are based over in another location in South Oxfordshire. This is the planning committee of the Henley Town Council. So we're not the planning, and we have to. We decided that one last meeting. Okay. Okay. If you actually go onto the planning portal, it will be written up there, the Henley Town Council decision.
Your decision was
It's in the minutes.
on paper with lack of privacy was right.
If you look at page 5 of today's agenda, under 28 plans new, 43 Kings Road, the decision of the meeting that was held on the 22nd of June was to recommend refusal. And it was on the agenda, but the minutes look rather like the agenda. It's easy to confuse the two. I did it first, I must admit. Would it help if we talk to you separately? Yeah.
That's fine, but I just want to speak on behalf of that application.
Well, we didn't hear that application tonight anyway, so...
We heard it at the last meeting, and the decision was made at the last meeting, so you're 3 weeks too late, unfortunately.
But we'll talk to you and explain the situation tonight.
Yeah.